Our Place by Mark Cocker, read by Mark Cocker. This book is dedicated to my mother, Anne Marjorie Cocker, who gave me the gift of birds and flowers, and also to our much-missed granddad, George Bramwell Simpson, 1896 to 1972, who loved to take his grandchildren in the back of his Mini Clubman to visit the farmers and farms of Reeps Moor, North Staffordshire. The question of all questions for mankind, the problem which underlies all others and which is more deeply interesting than any other, is the ascertainment of the place which man occupies in nature. Thomas Huxley. By the side of religion, by the side of science, by the side of poetry and art stands natural beauty, not as a rival to these, but as the common inspirer and nourisher of them all. George Macaulay Trevelyan. The explicit acceptance of the view that the world does not exist for man alone can be fairly regarded as one of the greatest revolutions in modern Western thought. Keith Thomas, Man and the Natural World. To renew the living fabric of the land so that it also replenishes the spirits of its human inhabitants seems to me as close as one can come to a single expression of the aims of a total conservation policy. Richard Mabey, Common Ground. A thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability and beauty of the biotic community. It is wrong when it tends otherwise. Aldo Leopold, A Sand Country Almanac. As long as nature is seen as something outside ourselves, frontiered and foreign, separate, it has lost both to us and in us. John Fowles, The Tree. Forward. This book had its origins in the wish to write a short polemical work on the state of British nature, whose declining fortunes I've observed and endured for most of my life. I quickly learned that I am constitutionally incapable of polemic, but the idea of saying something about the origins of environmentalism, its achievements and failures during the 20th century, and about the state of the British countryside has remained. Instead of pronouncing from a soapbox, I've tried to present the subject in the form of a physical journey, partly because I thought it might help to hold the reader's interest if I could evoke something of the British wildlife and British places that motivate all our efforts, alongside the more technical material about countryside history and politics. In the end, I also found that presenting the book as a personal journey closely mirrored my own evolving relationship to its subject. While I've been attached to the more than human parts of life since my earliest childhood in Buxton, Derbyshire, I have found it complicated to unravel why the state of nature in this country is as it is, but also to work out what I think and feel about this unfolding story. Progress has been slow, and the book has cost me proportionately more hard labour than any other I have written. On occasions it has felt like a physical voyage. I should explain some of the book's limitations. There's precious little on marine conservation. I have no excuse for this except that it is a massive subject in its own right, and it has been well covered by the likes of Callum Roberts in his wonderful The Unnatural History of the Sea. He is a professor of marine conservation. I am a landlubber from Derbyshire with no special knowledge of sea life. Nor have I covered the long history of ideas dating from the early modern period and even back to classical times, which has brought us to our present engagements with nature. Even the full story of British conservation could only truly be told in a multi-volume work running to many hundreds of thousands of words. You have only to scan the fastidious volumes of environmental history by John Shiel to appreciate this. Mine is no more than a watercolour of the full panoramic picture. I have provided an outline of the rise and work of the chief voluntary organisations, along with the 40-year fortunes of the statutory conservation body, the Nature Conservancy Council. Yet I've attempted to search the landscapes themselves and sift an almost overwhelming mass of material on these themes to find a series of fundamental interlocking truths, an understanding of which is essential to any grasp of the British countryside in the early 21st century.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?